Live from our 7 Tasmania studios, your nightly news with Kim Miller begins now.
Good evening, everyone. First tonight, the state government has extended emergency precautions, banning tenants from being evicted or rents increased as the coronavirus recovery continues. To ease the housing burden, Labor's calling for a shake-up in the short-stay accommodation sector, saying it's in desperate need of tougher regulation.
Rental reprieve, coronavirus safeguards extended to September 30, banning tenants being evicted or having rent increased.
This is not an opportunity to avoid paying rent. We strongly advise tenants to keep paying their rent if they are able to do so.
To know that they have another 3 months to repay the arrears, to renegotiate their rental agreements with their landlords does provide a level of comfort.
There's been some changes. Notices to vacate allowed for a property to be sold, major renovations, or the owner or close family to move in.
We are concerned that some landlords will rely on other reasons to evict tenants due to rental arrears.
Since the outbreak, many short-stay accommodation properties, usually filled with tourists, have switched to private rentals. Labor wants these to stay in that market through a crackdown on regulations.
Implement a pause on new permits for short-stay accommodation to ensure that there's a proper rebalancing of the market to ensure those properties that have moved into the private rental market stay there.
People are reluctant to enter into a rental they can't afford for a short period of rental time. We're talking about people who often have all of their belongings in storage. They've been couch surfing.
Other coronavirus restrictions still in place. The Premier concerned about a spike in Victoria with 17 new cases recorded there overnight. He's been in border discussions with South Australia today, but wouldn't reveal an opening date.
We do need to move towards opening our borders, but we obviously have to be cognisant of what's happening, as I've said on many occasions, on the other side of the fence, and the case in point with Victoria is an important one.
That announcement is still expected on Friday. Michelle Wisby, 7 Tasmania News.
A woman is in custody tonight for allegedly being behind the wheel of an out-of-control car which crashed through 2 yards in Launceston. Police say the woman was travelling at high speed along Hobart Road in Kings Meadows when she failed to negotiate a bend just after 3 a.m. The car crashed through 2 fences before coming to rest in a yard. The 38-year-old woman allegedly fled the scene but was later taken into custody. Anyone who witnessed the crash is urged to contact police. Another unit has been set alight in a complex targeted by arsonists only yesterday. Emergency crews arrived at the Risdon Road scene at Lutana around 3:30 this afternoon, finding smoke coming from the property. The blaze was quickly brought under control but has been deemed deliberately lit. Police were already investigating 2 fires at a neighbouring unit yesterday, calling for anyone with information to contact Crime Stoppers. A siege hostage who made an ill-fated decision to fire her captor's weapon has been spared jail time. Naomi Lee Mountney feared for her life as Brett Robinson Stacey kept police at bay with a sawn-off rifle for 17 hours. However, the victim still found herself before the court.
35 shots rang out in the 2018 Trevellyn siege. Naomi Lee Mountney fired only one of them, but it was one too many. On December 7, Brett Robinson Stacey arrived at Mountney's New World Avenue home, the same place where just days earlier he'd shot another woman in the leg. Police were looking for him and they found him. Over the next 17 hours he kept them at bay with a sawn-off rifle. Heavily armed officers finally stormed the house when he threatened to shoot Mountney. Today, Justice Robert Pearce said she was in no way responsible for his actions, adding she nearly convinced him to surrender. But addressing her offending, Justice Pearce said, "It is difficult to imagine why, about 2 hours into the siege, you would pick up the firearm and fire it yourself. You say it was to placate Mr Robinson Stacey. That was a misguided view." After the siege, Mountney became homeless. She lost her job and lost contact with her children. Her defence also claims she became the subject of targeted attacks. Yesterday, she pleaded guilty to recklessly discharging the firearm, as well as possessing a shortened firearm and without a licence. Today, she was sentenced to an 18-month community corrections order. Sean McComish, 7 Tasmania News.
A strong low pressure system is continuing to bring heavy rainfalls to parts of the state tonight, triggering several flood warnings. For an update on the situation, our reporter Michelle Wisby joins us live from the comfort of the newsroom. Michelle, it's wild out in Hobart tonight.
Yes, Kim, but it is much warmer in here. The heavy rains are continuing to affect the southeastern part of the state. Many of the rivulets across Hobart have swollen, with water flowing down from Mount Wellington. That's been hit by more than 220 mils of rain since yesterday. The inundation has seen some roads closed due to the flooding. It's also overloaded a sewage system at Granton. A significant infiltration of stormwater saw the pump station overloaded, causing effluent to bubble up and overflow into Gould Lagoon. Taswater says the EPA has been notified. Elsewhere, the SES has received more than 60 calls for assistance, mostly from water going into homes.
We were using pumps to get water out of houses. We were also sandbagging. We had a lot of roof damage or pre-existing damage. We believe water comes into the ceilings and drips into the house, so we have to deal with that as well. So a lot of water damage.
There's a flood warning for the Coal River. There are also minor flood warnings for the South Esk, Derwent, Jordan and the Huon rivers, and a flood watch for North East and the South East catchments. Now, it's not all bad news. The Weather Bureau says this rain event has actually hit some parts of the state that weren't needing this rain.
Many of those areas will be definitely welcoming this rain. For example, the Coal River has had very little water flowing through it at all over the last little while. And we have seen rises of up to around 1.5 metres there at Richmond. So definitely a lot of good rainfall into those catchments that have been quite dry.
Forecasters say the low pressure system is set to move away on Wednesday, with the rain decreasing. And Kim, for the weekend, a high pressure system should bring some more stable weather.
Well, with coronavirus restrictions easing further on Friday, there's calls to delay switching poker machines back on. The Rest Point Casino has been preparing to reopen its gaming room, allowing patrons to use every second machine in line with social distancing rules. But MP Meg Webb has argued they should stay turned off, saying Tasmanians saved $42 million since they were closed in March.
Switching poker machines back on at this time will be absolutely the worst case scenario for our state. It will be putting our community at higher risk of pokies harm, and it will be a real detriment to our economic recovery.
We think the gaming industry is really well placed to welcome lots of staff back, but also to manage patrons responsibly like we've always done.
The Premier today confirming his support for reopening the gaming sector. A proposal for a new Mount Wellington visitor hub has been delayed. The Hobart City Council was looking at the possibility of creating the Halls Saddle Centre at Ridgeway to ease traffic pressure on the Springs. The council is now seeking external funding for the full cost of the project because it's a state tourism destination. It's deferred the next phase of planning for the project for 6 months. As many Tasmanians eat dinner tonight, spare a thought for those in crisis. Charities across the state have seen a surge in people needing food relief, with demand up 70% since coronavirus hit. Organisations are finding it difficult to keep up.
A helping hand for Tasmanians doing it tough. Charities struggling to meet demand, with more families seeking food relief.
There's many people being impacted by this coronavirus, and putting meals on the table sometimes is a hard deal.
Loaves and Fishes in the state's northwest is relying on local businesses and personal donations to cope with the surge in people in need.
Since the 10th of April, we noticed an increase of around 70% in demand on our services. That's slightly decreased now, but we believe that in the next month or so we're going to see a spike again.
Nearly 250,000 kilos of fresh produce has moved through this warehouse since the start of April and has been turned into 90,000 meals for Tasmanians in need. Meanwhile, 320 families in the northwest, west coast and King Island are set to receive food boxes from Christian charity, the Rapid Relief Team. The boxes cost $60 each. Relying on fundraising, the charity is hopeful long-term funding from the federal or state government could help them to purchase more food boxes.
We believe that this will see us through in the immediate term, but we believe long term we will be looking for a more sustainable platform to continue it forward.
Federal member for Braddon, Gavin Pearce, donating around $10,000 of his own wages for the cause.
To identify those folk that maintain that pride but sometimes are too frightened or too proud to ask. That's what this is about.
Elizabeth O'Neill, 7 Tasmania News.
3 decades on, Tasmanian shipbuilder still holds a coveted speed record. Today marks 30 years since an Incat-built ship, the Hoverspeed Great Britain, claimed the Hales Trophy. It crossed the Atlantic Ocean at the highest average speed. Another 2 Incat ships improved the time, Catalonia in June 1998 and Catlink 5 in the following month. Catlink's 2-day, 20 hours and 9-minute record stands to this day. The Tasmanian Museum Art Gallery has welcomed back its first visitors, months after shutting down because of the pandemic. Families flocked to the iconic space, which has been altered to accommodate coronavirus restrictions. Staff have been busy behind the scenes during the shutdown, but were today excited to share the space once again.
It is beautiful to also see the wonder that people have when they see either old favourite objects that they've been missing over these COVID period, or the new shows that we've just put up in the intervening period.
Bookings are essential for anyone planning a visit to TMAG. And Cricket Tasmania has announced a shake-up of its coaching team. It comes amid ongoing uncertainty as to what the season will look like.
Staying your best when times are their worst was never going to be easy. Cricket Tasmania believes it's found the way.
We're doing it inside our budget, so we've cut our cloth in a different way. What became really clear to us through going through our restructure process was that the most important thing for the high performance program was to have high quality coaches.
3 months of planning has led to 4 new roles. Adam Griffith takes on the position of Director of Coaching and Hurricanes head coach.
This is something I've been thinking about for a while now within our organisation, and the best way for Jeff to develop as a head coach is to be a head coach.
Jeff Vaughan's focus will shift away from the BBL as the new Tigers male head coach. He denies the change has caused any tensions in the group.
We've worked really closely the last 3 years that we've been together, an expanded group now, not just Griff and myself, certainly no friction at all.
The shake-up comes after Cricket Tasmania was forced to shed 20 staff back in May during the COVID crisis. Yesterday, Cricket New South Wales promised it wouldn't be axing jobs. The Tasmanian boss insists the body wasn't too quick to cut.
I don't think we acted too swiftly. In fact, I think we acted just in time. I mean, we also run a stadium which is not the same as what happens for other cricket associations.
Sean McComish, 7 Tasmania News.
Good evening. Above average temperatures today as we sat under plenty of cloud cover. Hobart 12 degrees, which was bang on average. Launceston and Devonport 16. Burnie's 18, the state's high. Smithton 17 today. King Island 16. Strawn, Ouse and Low Head all 15 degrees. Flinders Island 14. St Helens and Friendly Beaches 13 and Grove 12. Top rainfall in the 24 hours to 9 a.m. was 175 millimetres at Mount Wellington, and today to 3 p.m. another 38 millimetres there and 15 at Tunnock. Now that's all due to the spiral of dense cloud over us, spinning out of that low off the northeast of Tasmania. However, the west was more protected. That system is now moving off over the Tasman Sea. A cold front has cloud over southern WA, and that's about it on the Big Island. Tomorrow, the cold front tracks further east towards the Bight as a high moves over central Australia. East to southeasterly winds at 15 to 25 knots, initially 30 knots over the east. Winds easing during the afternoon and swells to 3 metres in southern waters. We have a strong wind warning. That's in the east, running along the Flinders Island east coast down to Tasman Island. A flood watch for catchments in the east, northeast and southeast. A flood warning for the Coal River and a minor flood warning for the Huon, South Esk, Jordan and Derwent. And the forecast for tomorrow. 14 for Hobart with rain easing. Rain easing also from Geeveston and Bothwell. 12 for Bothwell tomorrow. Launceston a high of 16 degrees with a shower or two. Developing a shower over Devonport, 16 at the top and 14 for Cressy. Burnie a high of 16 with a shower or two on the way. A late shower for Strawn, 16 the top and 15 for Curry on King Island. And a high of 15 for St Helens with the rain easing. Swansea the same and 13 for Orford. On Thursday, showers initially over the northwest extending across the state during the afternoon. Mostly fine on Friday after a morning frost patch or two. A shower too in the east. And on Saturday, a light shower over the west and far south. Fine elsewhere with light winds. An early shower forecast for Perth. A shower or two in Adelaide. A foggy start there there and also in Melbourne. Canberra, partly cloudy, Sydney the same, but sunny and 21 in Brisbane. 12 right now in Hobart and cloudy, 13 in Launceston, Devonport mostly cloudy and 13 degrees. A reduction in rainfall tomorrow, Kim, but of course we'll have an increase in the river heights, so we'll keep an eye on that.
Thank you very much, Murph. We'll find out tomorrow. That's your news for tonight. Thanks for being with us. Good night.